There is a specific kind of silence that belongs only to an abandoned casino. It is not the silence of a library or a church or an empty house. It is a silence that feels wrong in its bones, because it is occupying a space that was engineered at enormous expense specifically to never be silent. The slot machines were designed to emit a constant layered wall of electronic sound precisely calibrated to stimulate the reward centers of the human brain. The ventilation systems were designed to circulate a specific blend of oxygen-enriched, lightly scented air to keep players alert and at the machines longer. The carpet patterns were designed by psychologists to keep your eyes up and forward, never letting your gaze drop to a surface that would remind you that you are tired and have been sitting for 6 hours. Every square inch of a functioning casino is a sensory manipulation machine running at full power 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. When all of that stops, when the power goes off and the machines go dark and the last security guard locks the door and drives away, the silence that fills the building is unlike any other silence in the world. It is the silence of a machine that has been switched off, and Las Vegas is full of these silences. Full of buildings that were once the loudest, brightest, most deliberately stimulating places in America and are now dark and still and waiting. Waiting to be demolished, waiting to be sold, waiting for someone to decide what to do with the dirt they are sitting on. These are the ghost casinos of Las Vegas, and every single one of them has something to tell you about what is happening to the city right now. My name is Florian. Today we are going to walk through 7 of these ghost casinos, from the ones that have already been reduced to rubble to the ones that are sitting empty and rotting right now, and we are going to examine what killed each one, what the corporation that owned it did wrong, and what the warning is that each empty building is broadcasting to anyone paying attention. Because the pattern that emerges when you look at all 7 of these properties together is not a random series of individual business failures. It is the same story told 7 times in 7 different buildings with 7 different names on the marquee and the same cause of death on the certificate. Let us start with the most famous ghost in the graveyard, the Stardust. If you are old enough to have gambled in Las Vegas before 2007, the Stardust is not an abstract piece of history, it is a memory. It opened in 1958 and for most of its life was the largest hotel in the world. It had 900 rooms at its peak, a casino floor that felt like the inside of a very expensive spaceship, and a sign out front that was considered one of the most spectacular pieces of neon art ever created. The Stardust was the casino that the mob skimming scandal in the Nicholas Pileggi book and the Martin Scorsese film was based on. It was the casino that had Wayne Newton performing for 20 years. It was, for a very long time, the casino that felt most like the platonic ideal of what a Las Vegas casino was supposed to be. Boyd Gaming, which acquired the Stardust from the previous ownership, made the decision to close it in 2006. The building came down in 2007, demolished to make way for a project called Echelon Place, which Boyd announced would be a massive, multi-billion-dollar resort complex that would redefine the North Strip. The Stardust was gone. The memory was gone. And in its place, Boyd Gaming broke ground on Echelon and then, 18 months later, suspended construction because the financial crisis had made it impossible to secure the financing needed to complete it. The empty concrete skeleton of the Echelon project sat on the former Stardust site for years, decades of history, reduced to rubble, replaced by a construction site that nobody finished. The North Strip was left with a gaping wound where one of its most beloved properties used to be. The Stardust was killed by the classic Vegas delusion, the belief that something new and bigger will always be better than something old and beloved. Boyd Gaming chose the ghost over the living institution, and the North Strip never fully recovered from the hole they left behind. The second ghost is the Riviera, the Riv. Opened in 1955, the first high-rise hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, the property that brought Liberace to Las Vegas, that featured the first female headliner in Vegas history in the form of Marlene Dietrich, that for 60 years was the kind of property where you walked in and felt the weight of the history embedded in the walls. The Riviera survived the mob era, survived the corporate takeover era, survived multiple near bankruptcies, survived the transition from rat pack glamour to budget tourism, and then finally, in 2015, it could not survive the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. The LVCVA, which is the tourism authority responsible for promoting Las Vegas as a destination, purchased the Riviera specifically to demolish it, not to renovate it, not to rebrand it, to demolish it and build a convention center expansion and a parking lot. 60 years of Las Vegas history, the building where the modern concept of the Las Vegas Entertainment Resort was invented, torn down for a convention center annex and a parking structure. The implosion happened in 2 stages, in 2015 and 2016, and the footage of the Riviera coming down is one of the most genuinely sad pieces of video in the history of Las Vegas documentation, because you are watching something irreplaceable being converted into debris for the most unglamorous possible purpose: a parking lot. That is what the Riviera became. And the parking lot does not even belong to a casino. It belongs to a convention facility. The Riviera did not die because the market rejected it. It died because the people responsible for the stewardship of Las Vegas decided that the land was worth more than the history. That is a statement about values. And it is the same statement being made, quietly and repeatedly, every time a casino corporation defers another maintenance cycle, cuts another loyalty program, adds another resort fee. The land is worth more than the relationship. The asset is worth more than what is happening inside it. The third ghost is Texas Station. This one hits differently than the others because it is recent, and because the people who feel its absence are not tourists or travel writers, but the actual residents of Las Vegas who lived in the neighborhoods around it. Texas Station was a locals casino, built in 1,995 inches North Las Vegas. It was the kind of property that served the working class, middle class, and immigrant communities of the north side of the valley. The bowling alley was genuinely excellent. The movie theater was the place the neighborhood went to see blockbusters. The buffet was the kind of place where you could take a family of 4 for a reasonable amount of money, and everybody would eat well and have a good time. It was not glamorous. It was not trying to be glamorous. It was trying to be useful and welcoming to the people who lived nearby, and it succeeded at that for 25 years. Then the pandemic hit in March of 2020, and Station Casinos, which owned the property, closed it along with its other properties as required by the Nevada shutdown order. Most of Station Casino's properties reopened when the restrictions lifted. Texas Station did not. The company announced that Texas Station and Fiesta Rancho would not reopen, citing what they called challenging economic conditions related to the pandemic. The honest translation was that the properties had been on the financial margin for years, and the pandemic gave Station Casinos the political and economic cover to close buildings they had been looking for an excuse to close anyway. Texas Station sat empty for 2 years, and then in 2022, the wrecking ball arrived. The bowling alley that families had bowled in for 20 years came down. The theater went, the casino floor went, the buffet went. All of it reduced to rubble. In its place, Station Casinos has plans for a new, smaller, more efficient property called NV. But the community it served, the actual human beings who depended on Texas Station as a neighborhood institution, lost something that cannot be replaced by a newer, smaller, more optimized building. Texas Station is a ghost casino that tells you something specific and important. When a corporation is under financial pressure, the properties that serve the community rather than the tourist are always the first to die. Ghost number 4 is Fiesta Rancho. Same story as Texas Station, same corporate owner, same pandemic closure, same decision never to reopen. But Fiesta Rancho is a particularly bitter ghost because it is not gone. It is still standing. The building is still there, sitting in the North Las Vegas community it once served, its parking lot empty, its casino dark, its signs still up on the outside because nobody has bothered to take them down yet. A ghost casino in the most literal sense. You drive past it, and it looks almost normal from the outside. The signage is still there, the bones of the building are intact. But nothing inside it is working, and no one is inside it. It is the architectural equivalent of a body that has not been buried yet. The community around Fiesta Rancho lost its local casino without getting so much as a clear timeline for what would replace it. The land sits idle, the building sits idle, and the people who used to walk there from their houses to play video poker on a Tuesday evening have no replacement. They have a dark building with its name still on it, mocking them with the memory of what used to be there. Fiesta Rancho is the ghost that is hardest to look at because it has not fully accepted that it is dead yet. The fifth ghost is the Klondike. Most people who are not longtime Las Vegas devotees have never heard of the Klondike, and that anonymity is precisely why it belongs on this list. The Klondike was a tiny motel and casino located at the very southern tip of the Las Vegas Strip, at the intersection of Las Vegas Boulevard and Russell Road, positioned to catch travelers arriving from the airport. It was cheap, it was small, it was unpretentious, it was exactly the kind of property that had no business surviving into the luxury mega resort era. But it survived anyway, for decades, simply because it was useful. It gave budget travelers a place to sleep within walking distance of the Strip at a price that made sense for people who were spending most of their money gambling rather than on the room. It was the last gasp of the old democracy of Las Vegas, the idea that you did not have to be wealthy to be welcome in the city. The Klondike closed in 2006 after decades of operation, and the building sat vacant for years before finally being demolished. Nobody did a documentary about the Klondike. Nobody organized a farewell. It was just gone, like thousands of small, useful, human-scaled businesses that the luxury resort era rendered obsolete by making Las Vegas too expensive for the people who used to be able to afford it. The Klondike's ghost does not haunt any specific building. It haunts the entire concept of what Las Vegas used to be accessible to. Ghost number 6 is the New Frontier. The Frontier has deep, specific, significant history. It was the second hotel ever built on the Las Vegas Strip, opening in 1942. Frank Sinatra played there. The property went through multiple ownership changes and rebrands over the decades, becoming the New Frontier under one ownership and then just the Frontier under others, but it always occupied its corner of the Strip with the permanence of something that had been there since the beginning and would always be there. Until 2007, when the Ad Group, an Israeli real estate investment company, purchased the property, announced plans to build a massive luxury condo and hotel tower called the Plaza on the site, demolished the New Frontier, and then watched as the real estate crisis of 2008 obliterated any possibility of financing the project. For years, the most visible piece of real estate on the North Central Strip was a chain-link fence surrounding a flat, empty lot where one of the oldest properties in Vegas history used to stand, a hole. Literally a hole in the Strip, surrounded by the neon and marble of its neighbors, doing nothing, generating nothing, sitting as the most expensive empty lot in the history of American real estate. The New Frontier ghost is the one that most clearly illustrates the danger of allowing purely speculative real estate thinking to destroy functioning casino properties. The Ad Group did not buy the New Frontier because they had a viable plan. They bought it because the land was valuable and they believed they could find financing for a luxury project. They could not. The building came down before they knew whether the project could be built, and the community paid the price for that gamble with a decade of staring at a fence. The seventh ghost is the most recent and, in some ways, the most instructive, the Side Cannery. It was not a legendary property. It was not associated with Frank Sinatra or the Rat Pack or the mob or any of the glamorous mythology that makes Las Vegas history feel romantic. The Side Cannery was a functional, well-run, community-oriented locals casino operated by Boyd Gaming in Boulder City, Nevada, adjacent to the east side of Las Vegas. It had good food, fair games, reasonable prices, and a loyal customer base of local residents who had been going there for years. When the pandemic hit in 2020, Boyd Gaming closed it, exactly as Station Casinos closed Texas Station, and like Texas Station, the Side Cannery never reopened. Boyd Gaming eventually announced that the property would be demolished and the land would be sold for residential housing development. The casino floor that regulars had visited every week for years came down. The restaurant where locals ate lunch came down, all of it replaced by houses. The neighboring casino, the Emerald Island, reportedly hosted a viewing party for the demolition, which tells you everything you need to know about the competitive casino landscape in that market. A community institution was destroyed, its loyal customers were displaced, and the land was converted into something that serves the financial interest of the corporate owner rather than the ongoing social interest of the people who had built their leisure lives around it. 7 ghost casinos, 7 different buildings, 7 different names and histories and communities, and the same warning echoing out of every dark, empty, demolished space where they used to stand. The warning is this: Las Vegas has decided that the land is always worth more than what is on it. The financial engineering logic that drives every decision made by every major casino corporation on the Las Vegas Strip and in its surrounding neighborhoods operates from a single foundational assumption. The highest and best use of a given piece of Las Vegas real estate is determined by the current capital markets and the current debt structures of the corporate owner, not by the relationship between the property and the people who use it. When Texas Station served its community well and generated modest but consistent profits, that was not enough, because the financial model of station casinos in the post-pandemic era required properties to generate more than modest and consistent profits. When the Riviera was still attracting budget travelers and providing employment and hosting entertainment and functioning as a working piece of Las Vegas culture, that was not enough, because the LVCVA had decided that the land would serve the city's convention infrastructure better than it was serving the city's tourism culture. When the Stardust was a beloved institution with 60 years of history and a loyal customer base, that was not enough, because Boyd Gaming had convinced itself that a $1 billion construction project would generate more value than the operating institution. In every single case, the value of the relationship was sacrificed to the value of the asset. And in every single case, the community that depended on the relationship lost something that could not be replaced by whatever was built or not built in its place. This is the warning that the ghost casinos are broadcasting. Not specifically about casinos, about the broader shift in how Las Vegas treats the human beings who give it its reason to exist. The ghost casinos are the extreme version of what the resort fee represents, what the 6 to 5 blackjack represents, what the automated drink sensor represents, what the call center front desk represents. They are all expressions of the same underlying logic. The institution is more important than the relationship. The asset is more important than the guest. The quarterly return is more important than the lifetime of loyalty that was built up by thousands of individual visits and hundreds of thousands of individual dollars spent by people who believed they were participating in a mutual exchange of value. The ghost casinos are what happens when that logic runs to its terminal conclusion. The building falls silent, the machines go dark. The carpet, which was designed specifically so that you would never look at it, becomes the most honest thing in the room, revealing the decay that the lights and the sounds had been concealing. If you are a regular Las Vegas visitor, if you have a casino you consider yours, a property where you know the dealers and the hosts know your name, and you have stayed in the same suite enough times that the housekeeping staff remembers what you like in the minibar, I want you to look carefully at that property right now. Look at the maintenance of the building. Is there deferred work you can see? Stained ceilings, worn carpets, plumbing fixtures that have not been updated since the Obama administration? Look at the staffing levels. Is the floor thinner than it used to be? Are the same faces still there? Or have the experienced hosts and pit bosses been replaced by younger, cheaper employees who are still learning the language of hospitality? Look at the comp program. Is what you receive for your play still proportional to what you were receiving 3 years ago? Or has the value of the relationship quietly declined while the required investment to maintain your tier has quietly increased? And look at the ownership structure. Who actually owns the building your casino is operating in? Is it the company running the casino? Or is it a real estate investment trust that bought the building and leases it back, with no particular stake in whether the relationship between the casino and its customers is healthy or not? These are not paranoid questions. They are the questions that would have been obvious to anyone looking carefully at Texas Station or the Riviera or Fiesta Rancho before those properties went dark. The warning signs were there, the deferred maintenance was there, the declining comp values were there. The management decisions that prioritized the balance sheet over the guest experience were there. The ghosts were becoming ghosts before anyone called them ghosts. And if you know what to look for, you can see the same process beginning in properties that are still open, still running, still flashing their neon at the Nevada sky. The question is not whether Las Vegas will produce more ghost casinos. It will. The question is which ones, and whether you will be holding a loyalty card and a prepaid reservation when the lights go out. The answer is to stop organizing your gambling life around institutions that have stopped deserving your loyalty. The alternatives exist. They have been covered on this channel in detail, and they are real, and they are functioning on the philosophy that the ghost casinos abandoned. The places where the land is still worth less than the relationship, where the guest is still worth more than the quarterly return, where the loyalty program still honors the loyalty it was built to reward. Go there. Build your habits around the places that are trying to keep you, not the places that are trying to extract you. And let the ghost casinos be the reminder they are supposed to be. Not just of what Las Vegas used to be, but of what Las Vegas chose to stop being, and why the choice was made, and who paid the price for it.